I promise you, if any of these 6 things happen to you, you're going to pee your pants whenever you sell your house. All right, welcome back to another video. If you don't know me, I'm Luis Bruno. I am a real estate agent down here in Savannah, Georgia. And I wanted to share with you 6 things that would make any transaction a complete nightmare when it comes to selling your house. Now, the purpose of this video is basically make you more intelligent. That way you can make better decisions whenever you get offers. Whenever you finally find a buyer, how are you going to navigate all of those different scenarios and make sure that you get paid and you find your next home and you can move on with your life. Okay, so with that being said, let's get to the point. Number 1, repairs. And I'm talking about even before they list the home and after they list the home. Repairs is always the biggest nightmare on any real estate transaction. Now, one of the most common questions that I get from homeowners is basically, what should I do to my house before I put it on the market? And my answer is always starting from the outside, the curb appeal, and then starting from the inside. What are the first things you see? Either the cleanliness of the house, how it smells, decluttering your house, and then obviously fixing those things that are not so obvious to the eye. So most people, they decide to either not get an inspection before listing their home, and they will let that basically be handled by the buyer. Now, what happens with that? What is the consequence of you not investing your own time and resources to find out what's wrong with your property? The consequences is that, guess what? You're going to hire an agent. They're going to do marketing for your home. They're going to find a buyer. That buyer is going to make an offer and he's going to get an inspector. Now, the whole point of the inspector is basically finding out every single detail about what's wrong and what's right with the house, right? So the biggest mistake is letting the buyer find that out up front. They're going to use that against you. They're going to make sure that they don't pay 1 cent extra because of that. All right, so if you want to avoid headaches and if you want to avoid the number 1 cause of the deals falling through, make sure you get an inspector in your house. Make sure you know exactly what's going on with the house, and then you can use that to work for you. You can use it as a marketing tool saying, hey, this has been updated, this has been replaced, this is brand new, here's the inspection report, this home is great, etc. Number 2, the second biggest disaster that could happen to you as a homeowner is this. You put the home for sale, you finally find a buyer, and now you're having problems finding a replacement home. Meaning that you're selling to either upgrade or downgrade, and it's hard for you to find a replacement home. Let's say you found a home. Let's say now you have 2 properties under contract. You got yours under contract, plus you got another one that you're going to buy. A biggest disaster, I think this is the biggest disaster, is to sell your home and closing your home and not being able to close on the other one. Now, what can happen if that happens to you? You're going to either stay with a friend, maybe stay at a hotel for either a whole month or 60 days or whatever. Or worst case scenario, if you don't find another home, you're going to either have to rent for 6 months or for an entire year. Now, how do you avoid this from happening? My suggestion would be to either talk to a lender, find out if you qualify to actually purchase a home first and then sell yours afterwards, or make sure that you can make the offer contingent on you closing on your home first. Now, when you make offers like that, it is a little bit unlikely that they're gonna wait for you unless it is a buyer's market. Right now, unfortunately, we are on a seller's market. So if you have a home and you're making offers and it's like, hey, this is my offer, but it's just depending on me being able to sell my own house first, probably the other homeowner is gonna tell you, you know what, I'm not gonna be waiting on you to sell your house. I'm just gonna sell it to whoever makes me an offer now. Now, number 3, one of the biggest disasters that could happen to you as a homeowner is getting underpaid. And this is why you need to make sure you hire the right real estate agent, right? Let me explain this to you. When I say getting underpaid, I mean, what would happen if for whatever reason, the property appraises for more than what you have it under contract for? Let's say, for example, you receive an offer for $300,000. They got an appraisal done, and apparently now the property's worth $310,000. Can you ask them for $10,000 more? Right? That is a good question. Can you ask the buyer and say, hey, your offer is for $300,000, but the appraisal came out to be $310,000. So now we need to increase the price and make it $310,000. Now here's the disaster. The disaster is that it is very unlikely that you will actually find out how much your property appraised for. Yes, you can have an appraisal done unless, let me tell you this, unless it is written on the offer that you have the right to know how much the property appraised for and what are the consequences of that in the scenario, for example, that the property appraises for more. What are your rights? Like, do you have the right to ask the buyer to pay more or not, right? So that is the biggest fear. There is a very high chance that you will not find out how much your property appraised for. Let me tell you this. What would you do if you were the buyer and you made an offer on a home for, I don't know, $300,000 and all of a sudden it came out to be $320,000? Are you going to go to the seller and say, hey, by the way, I made you an offer for $300,000, but this home is worth $320,000. So thank you so much. I made $20,000 on equity. You're not going to do that, right? So nobody else will. And that, my friend, is a disaster as a homeowner. So make sure you do your diligence and make sure you're hiring a real estate agent that actually know about prices in your area. All right, let's continue. On position number 4, we have the buyer backing out of the deal. Now, this is a little bit complicated because there's a lot of reasons why the buyer might back out of the deal. Now, how do you avoid that from happening? There's a few ways of avoiding this from happening, right? To avoid disasters. Number 1, when you receive the offer, make sure you have a clear understanding of how many days they're requesting to do their due diligence, right? So if they have on the offer that they're going to do 15 days of due diligence or inspection period, now you know that you have 15 days for the buyer to back out of the deal. So what do you do instead? You can either tell them, hey, instead of giving you 15 days, I'm only going to give you 5 days for you to do whatever homework you need to get done. Now, if you cannot get it done at that point, yes, we can extend it. But as of right now, let's just keep it at 5. That's just an example. A second example would be to get an inspection done and to actually fix the things that are wrong with the house before the property is on the market, which is something that most sellers don't want to do. Why? Because they rather sell the home as is and go through all the headaches. Now, let me tell you this. When you sell the home as is, not only you're going to attract investors and people who want to lowball offer you, right? But also you're going to have a lot of headaches in the future because guess what? Whatever you don't disclose, they're going to find out anyways. And when they find out, they're either going to ask you for a discount or they're going to ask you to fix it yourself. Now, another example will be with the financing. If you don't want the buyer to back out with financing before accepting the offer, remember they should give you a pre-approval letter, right? Unless it's a cash buyer, but they can give you proof of funds. But if they're using financing, make sure you can call the mortgage officer and say, hey, is this a person that is only pre-qualified or are you actually pre-approved? And they give you documentation of everything you need. It's not the same me just filling out an application online, getting just a pre-approval letter that expires in 90 days and they make an offer and boom. Rather than just go to a loan officer, give them my taxes, give them my income, give them everything regarding my credit, my employment, everything, my bank statements, right? That is actually a solid buyer right there. So make sure you pay attention to avoid all of those disasters regarding a buyer backing out. At number 5 would be legal issues. And I'm not only talking about legal issues with the transaction, but also legal issues with the home. And I'm talking about title issues, right? Either you owe money to a contractor, or maybe the previous owner did, or maybe there is a lien, maybe there is something regarding the boundaries, maybe there is a fence that is 3 feet away from where it's supposed to be, etc. and etc. Now, the number 1 cause of legal issues with transaction is always regarding the seller's disclosure. And that means that whatever is wrong with the house, you need to disclose it. I actually had a situation with a buyer, right? I was representing the buyer that bought a home. 6 months later, all of the bathrooms stopped working. We call a plumber. The plumber said,
oh yeah, I've been to this house like 3-4 times. I know exactly what's wrong.
Now we went to the seller's disclosure and we noticed that the seller didn't say absolutely anything about having plumbing issues in the past. This is an old house. But he got sued and he had to pay $14,000 about 6 months even after selling their home. So this is the number 1 reason why you might have legal issues when you sell your home, and it's a complete nightmare. You can get sued And let me tell you, you will get sued if you start lying to people, not letting them know what's wrong with your house, knowing damn well that you either try to fix it or maybe fix it yourself and there is a bunch of things wrong with it. All right. So if you want to avoid the stupidity of having legal issues with your home transaction, make sure you disclose absolutely everything that you know about the house. Now, the last one, which is number 6, is deadlines. Now, this one, my friend, is the most annoying and it's actually more common than you think. I can say about 70% of my transactions literally don't close the day that they're supposed to close. Now, it's not because of the fault of a real estate agent. Maybe it's not the fault of a seller or the fault of a buyer. The majority of them, and this is my honest experience, the majority of them is because of the mortgage officer. I've had situations literally when we're closing on a Friday and the paperwork needs to be, in Georgia, we do real estate transactions with a real estate attorney. Now, they need the entire packet, right? They need the entire set of paperwork of closing at least 72 hours before the date of closing. That way they can review it, they can check everything and make sure that everything is good to go. What happens? The mortgage officer is just doing something. I've had mortgage officers that tell me,
"Oh, I'm out of the country."
I'm like, what do you mean you're out of the country? Like, you cannot send the documents by email?
"Oh, well, I forgot to do X, Y, and Z. It's gonna have to be a Monday."
I'm like, well, the closing is on Friday, right? Right? Things like that happen. It has nothing to do with the buyer. The buyer actually, he turned it in every single document that he needed. Maybe you as a seller did as well. Me as a real estate agent, I did my thing. Everybody did their thing. And all of a sudden the loan officer is lost, right? Maybe another thing could happen. Either the title company or the closing attorney is booked and they tell you, hey, sorry about that. We're not going to be able to close on Tuesday. We don't have any room for any more closings. It's going to have to be on Friday or Wednesday or whatever, right? Things like that could happen. Now, here's why it gets annoying. If that happens to you as a homeowner, either you're going to have to stay at a hotel, wait to get paid. Maybe you were planning on using that money to buy another property. You're going to have to delay that closing as well because maybe you were planning on closing on 2 properties at the same time, etc. and etc. It can get very shitty real quick, even if everything goes smooth all the way to the end. So with that being said, guys, try to avoid all of those pains, all of those headaches, and make sure you hire the right real estate agent. And I'll see you guys next time. Take care.